Welcome back, guys, to Bite Size Business. Business made palatable. Business made swallowing size.
Yeah, we're going to come back to whatever
Business
that is at some other time and kind of determine the exact branding.
Take a chew out of business. Yeah. Bite. Business you can chew on. We've had some questions coming in from some viewers. These are some young entrepreneurs who are looking for some guidance. These are people who are not yet ready to jump out of their full-time job. They're still working a full-time job, but they're looking on ways to escape that 9-to-5 grind and feel the freedom of being your own business owner / your own consultant, which if you're a consultant, you're not really, you are your own business owner, but you're dependent on other businesses. But I feel like that's a big step to that financial freedom that you're looking for. So one question they had was Google certificates, are they worth it? Do people know about Google certificates? Are they worth it? Do people give them any weight? Do people even care about them?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I guess, question. I think it came from one of the marketing students who was, we were talking about a podcast, right? And I think there is actually some value in these Google certificates for both educational purposes, for being more familiar with the Google tech stack. Some of the certificates you can get, for instance, are Google AdWords, AdSense. There's one related to the Merchant Center, I believe, and there's also the Search Console and Analytics. So basically the entire tech stack of Google is, from a small business owner's perspective or a marketer's perspective, helping you become familiar with the, how to set up a campaign, how to install the pixel tracking, how to install, conversions events so your campaigns can actually have, you optimize for different events rather than just optimizing for clicks, where you're going to see a lot more value. And from that perspective, yeah, I think there's definitely some value. When we were running our marketing firm, we actually had to get a certain number of our employees to be certified in order to get that Google badge, the Google Preferred Partner or Premier Partner, I think is what it's called.
Whatever that is.
But
now you just pay for it. It's like Twitter.
Well, you pay for it actually in a way. I mean, because you do have to spend a certain threshold. It was like $10,000 per month on Google Ads. So when you're managing client spend, it's pretty easy to hit. But and then you had to have 2 to 5 members of your team certified, depending on the badge type. But yeah, anyone that's looking to build up their resume a little bit, a lot of these Google certification courses are free. I look into the analytics one for sure, maybe the AdWords one, just so you're more familiar with those two products. If you're looking for any job in the tech space or the marketing space, I definitely see some value there. A lot of people will have it like on their LinkedIn profiles too. If you're, you can add all your certifications to your kind of profile on LinkedIn.
I think I want to come back to these Google certificates, but just a tiny little branch off of this conversation. I feel like Google certificates kind of fall into the same mindset and category of paying for courses in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, now the guru space, I feel like, has become glutted with quote-unquote gurus who may or may not be just giving you their YouTube playlist for $500 a month. Yeah. But, I mean, there's got to be... People pay for it, so there's got to be some value.
But I think there's a difference in the quality that you're going to see with, Google's like a $3 billion company. They've obviously put a lot of time into developing out these training courses because they're so essential to their core business. All the revenue basically from Google is from ads, so they want marketers to be more effective at using their ad platform to generate business so that they in turn get more ad spend. So comparing the effectiveness of like Google certification to your typical YouTube guru, you're definitely going to see a quality difference, but the applicability is also going to be a lot different. There's a direct application of the Google products. And it's not the same as just watching a YouTube video. These do have like certification courses where you actually have like unit exams, things like that. There is like kind of a pass-fail rate. And so it's not just put some headphones in and listen to it,
check the boxes fast enough when you get it.
And so, yes and no, it's not going to be the end-all be-all for marketing certification. It doesn't replace hands-on experience it's only going to give you exposure to a certain subset of marketing platforms, but it's a great start as far as that web developer goes, or your pay-per-click ad campaign manager, things like that.
I mean, that goes into the age-old question of ye old guru course, college degrees, if those are worth anything anymore. Some had the argument, I read an article once where they were comparing what's a better use of your money, getting online certificates or getting a degree in this field.
This was an interesting one. When I was in college, originally I was studying computer science, and the problem that I was facing is I was seeing ads for these online certifications for web dev courses, and these web dev courses were promising that at the end of a 12-week program, you'd be able to get a web dev job. At the time, web dev was paying somewhere between $65,000 and $100,000, depending on the company you're joining. And that guarantee, the $10,000 course, that you'd have placement services before you had to pay, or pretty impressive. Now, so that's what I'm seeing ads for. At the same time, I'm studying and going through a 4-year degree program, and we're not learning JavaScript. We're learning C++. We're learning WebAssembly. We're learning machine code. I wasn't really seeing the applicability of these. Sure, from a foundational perspective, being able to then build off concepts all the way up to high-level programming language. Yeah, there's a value in understanding why things are done a certain way, why algorithms are formulated the way they are. But at the same time, it's like maybe an employer will ask about it in an interview, but the reality of it is they want developers who are working in the Angular stack or the React stack, and they're able to deal with Node.js backends or Python backends, and that's what they were searching for at the time. But we weren't going to be learning those things until our 4th year of education in this degree program. So that's one example where I think it made more sense for me to then just go out and become a programmer, learn those things on my own, than to continue with that education. And but compare that to other degree programs that actually require certification. I mean, there's a lot of career paths out there that doctors, nurses, optometrists. You've got dentists, accountants. All those require certifications. Even the blue collar trades, you need a certain number of hours working for a company to be able to get certified as an electrician, plumber, HVAC contractor. So there's definitely value in education, but you need to be looking at the long term kind of returns are going to be. If you're having to spend 4 years in college and you're only going to be increasing your income by a couple $1,000s a year, and there's no guarantee of you getting a job, is that really a good investment compared to the time that you've now wasted that you could have been earning or going through a certification course? Like mechanics at the time when I was going to school were making $38 an hour. So it's like, is a mechanics program better than looking at computer science? Because computer science only pays $30. So at the end of the day, which one was the better path?
Right. I feel like you hit on an important subject of that. Of if schools cannot learn to keep their programs updated, they're gonna fall. Which I don't know. I mean, with things changing so much, I feel like school has a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of tapes. They got to get a lot of their stuff, checked and rechecked before they can just go teaching a program.
Sure.
But these certificates kind of fill in those gaps.
I mean, and there's other certificate programs as well. I mean, one of the recent ones I saw was like the Pearson University. You got that professor out of Canada who's been teaching, and it's kind of like what do you call it, master class or mastermind, I think it was called. But you've got all these kind of online training courses, all based around subjects, and the idea is like it's what's his name, chef guy. Gordon Ramsay's teaching you how to cook is one of the mastermind courses.
That was like, what? He's teaching you how to code.
Yeah.
This C++ is so right.
Anyone could do it. But is there value in those kind of training courses? Perhaps. I mean, for $300 a year, you can get access to all the video courses that they have on that platform. Now, is an employer going to look at that and say, oh, you're now qualified to do this job? Probably not. But if you've gone the extra mile and you've been studying these things on your own and you're able to show, well, here's a project I'm working on in my day job and this is applicable to it, you might be able to leverage that into project-based work or a promotion that leads to other opportunities in your career. So, I mean, there's different ways to look at it.
That brings up something that I'm getting back into LinkedIn, right? Because I'm entering the corporate world a little more, or at least just trying to be in the space. But I'm a part of the sales managers group who's like, you're talking about how to get sales manager jobs. And they have these weird daily prompt questions where they're talking about like, oh, what do you do to prepare for an interview? How do you really impress recruiters? And I'm like, man, I don't know, at least in my personal life, and maybe my personal life is way different than everyone else's, but I don't know a single person who has gotten the job they have through a cut dry, put in a resume, got called up by a recruiter, and got their job. It has 100% been working the network and making friends, which maybe because I'm so extroverted, that's just the path I lean to, and I just ignore all the other things. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm dumb. But getting stuff to put on your resume to then turn into a recruiter who then throws it straight into the trash, I don't know.
I mean, sales is one of those that's a little more complicated because it's either you have sales history you've done door to door. I've done door to door before. A lot of the salesmen I know, they start their careers either in like cold calls, like
call centers.
Call centers one route, but the ones that tend to stay in the industry have the support structure of either like phone sales, car sales has been like used car sales is pretty common. I've seen the phone based call center is really another one. If you can stick with it and have that many opportunities to have sales experiences, because if you're in a call center that's doing inbound, you're getting 15 to 20 conversations in a shift at least, where you're having all those opportunities to close, test sales methodologies, get feedback from your sales trainer. It gives you a lot better chances of succeeding because you're exposed to so many different closes.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I mean, it's all situational, I guess, depending on the industry. You can be more specific examples when you're bringing up, depending on what it is. But it's not always the most direct approach. Like, there's not really I don't know of a sales training course that you could just take and feel like you're ready. I've read books like Sell or Be Sold. I've read, what's the other one?
10X.
Never Split the Difference.
Grant Cardone, baby.
There's a lot of interesting ones that talk about sales methodology. Zig Ziglar is another one you should read. He talks about like
Praise be his name.
if you're actually but Ziglar is one of my favorites.
I read so many of his quotes, I felt like I read his book.
Yeah. His favorite concept, though, that I really like is the idea that you as a salesman, your job is not to convince someone to buy something they don't need. Your job is kind of this role of being a buyer's advocate or buyer's agent, where you're helping them to discover, you're taking the time to discover what they're needing, seeing if the solution you're trying to pair them with is in line with those needs, and then helping them to have the confidence to then pull the trigger. And that's a very different way to look at sales, and that's how I've always seen it. As a real estate agent, that's kind of how sales are done. You're trying to understand the needs of your clients, needs of the seller, try to come together to make a deal happen. And the constraints aren't always obvious. They're not always disclosed, but if you start to understand them by probing a little bit, you can actually, try to make this work for all parties. And that's a different methodology than trying to sell a $20 item online through a Shopify store versus doing a B2B close or.
Now, I bring up sales to circle this all the way back to our Google certificate discussion. I brought up sales because I feel like that's the career where unknowingly your portfolio really shines. I mean, you talk to a salesman, his portfolio is himself. You talk to a salesman, you can get a vibe for him and be like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's a salesman. Or I don't care how many certificates this guy has. I don't care how many courses this guy went through. Dude, he ain't got it, and he is not a salesman. Right. He's got all the feathers in his cap, but rip.
What makes it so powerful, though, is like a salesman is able to use quantitative numbers. Very different than saying, well, I've done this in my career, but they can't put hard numbers to it. Versus a salesman who could say, look, I improved. I was the highest closing rate in my team. I sold this many $1 million worth of product, and in my training role, I helped increase the performance of the team by this much, and I developed these it's very specific, right?
If you're not tracking your career numbers, you should be.
You got to start your baseball card somewhere.
Bruh,
So
baseball. But I mean, so because there's a lot of these people who get these educations. They're career students. They get all these certificates and all this stuff, but then they're just useless. They're just useless. I don't know. But they put so much focus on the feathers, but they're not even passionate about what they're doing. They don't work hard. They don't code for fun. They don't work on projects because they're interested in it. Which, not to say you gotta love your job, but
I think the problem though is a lot of people go after things and they say, "Look, I'm doing this to check a box," and the task is not checking the box. It's trying to learn that whatever lesson
why
was
the box is
intended,
there.
why the box even is a requirement. And so if you didn't spend the time to become a salesman and learn customer service or dealing with customer complaints or objections, it's like, have you really checked the box? Great, you spent 6 years doing it, but if you never learned how to close, then what did you really learn? And that's not just sales; that's just about any
exactly.
industry.
Sales was just the example. I feel like that's everything. There's people who they say they code, but I'm like, okay, but all right. Or they're nurses, and I'm like, you hate people. Why are you here? I'm like, man.
And I guess wrapping it back down to like these certificates, it's like if you're just gonna once again click the boxes to get the certificate, that's one thing. But they lay out pretty well all the things you need to kind of have a surface level understanding of to be able to use those softwares effectively. The Google Search Console allows you to see all your SEO traffic, all the keywords you're ranking for, your website page load times, things like that. Upload a sitemap so you know which links on your site are actually visible to Google. If you're able to use that tool, then you're able to then improve the effectiveness of your whole SEO strategy. See how effective your social media campaigns are at driving traffic to your website. So, I mean, great, you got the certificate, but did you learn how to use those tools? So,
Which I will say, the value that comes from these certificates is it does put it in a nice, convenient package. Because I am convinced you can learn anything about anything on YouTube if you watch enough videos. If you watch enough videos, you become a master of literally anything if you have 4,000 hours. But if you can also get a nice certificate or a nice little course that bundles that all up, and you're passionate about it, I don't know. I guess the big takeaway I wanted to take from this was Google certificates, they have a place. Knowledge has a place. Getting these feathers in your cap have a place. But if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's only going to go so deep. I don't know. And there's so many people I see that just don't have passion for what they're doing, which is incredibly hard to find. I'm not saying finding passion for any subject is easy, but if you're in a spot where you're not excited about what you're doing, there's got to be more in this life, right? There's got to be more.
Sure. And like, I think there's new, like one thing that I've started to do when I'm trying to learn a new topic is start with the outline. There's a book I read called The First 20 Hours. Essentially what it is instead of going into a new subject, trying to get, like, you waste a lot of time trying to just read up random things and try to piece together your own roadmap for learning a subject versus going to somebody who's already gone down that road and they say, here's the 10 things you got to understand at a foundational level to be able to go to the potatoes of the argument, like leave the bread, And that's been really helpful, taking that approach to learning new things. If you can use AI is a great tool. You can ask ChatGPT and say, look, I'm trying to learn this subject. What should I look at first? You can even ask it to suggest YouTube videos, then teaching those different subjects. It can read transcripts and do things like that, do summaries. So you can change the way that you're starting the first 20 hours so that you're diving right into the content and learning in a way that is going to be helpful for the long run. Don't learn a subject wrong. Don't make mistakes early.
Biggest takeaway: don't learn a subject wrong.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's
old habits die hard.
Learning how to learn something, that's its own habit or its own skill. What time are we at, Sam?
We're at 22 minutes.
22. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, one of the interesting ones that I had recently was I was setting up a internal network for routing. So I've got my managed switches, my managed router, and I was having packet flooding issues. And I I knew what was going on. Like I was having like no packets were getting through from devices I was trying to connect to in the network. So I knew enough about that to be able to describe the problem, but didn't know what the fix was or what it was called. But being able to then ask and interact with AI helped me figure out it was like, oh, ARP protocols. And then, okay, how do I do ARP protocols on this specific router? Very quickly, I'm able to come to a solution. So there's ways to kind of, in your problem-solving workflow, be able to incorporate new tools to then be able to learn these concepts more quickly.
Which I would argue learning how to learn is probably the most important skill you can have for anyone looking to start any kind of business, any kind of promotion, any kind of move up in any kind of business. If you can learn to problem solve, it's so basic. But if you can learn how to problem solve, the whole world is your oyster.
Yeah.
100%. There's literally nothing that can stop you. Which, I don't know. Why are you even doing that? Why are you setting up all these networks? Why do you do what you do? You want to talk to an interesting man, talk to Aiden. Freaking heck, dude. Always having stuff going on, but why?
Well, I mean, learning to learn. People that I don't see any time that I'm going to stop learning. I want to be a lifelong learner, learning new things. Like I want to understand from a very low level how things interact with other things, because that's where you start to see. Like when I went back to school, I ended up studying something called IDS, Interdisciplinary Studies. The main concept there is like, how do you incorporate multiple fields of study into one kind of unified theory? Like how does programming relate to customer service? How does sales relate to? How does finance tie into business development? There's nothing really that can be taken in isolation. Like all cutting edge breakthroughs today happen in multiple fields. Material science, engineering, physics. Like you got to combine a lot of those ideas if you're working at 3M and making the next sticky notes. There's so many elements to pushing the envelope forward as far as technology goes. So being able to understand those multifaceted approaches to different problems gives you an edge.
Which that's why I've always been a proponent of general studies. Like people in high school, I feel like this debate always comes up every couple years. Is, in school we should just learn the topics we're interested in. Like if we want to be a mathematician, we should just learn math. Or if we want to be an English major, we should just learn English. Why do we have to learn all these math classes? I'm like, because it all goes together. A smart, Renaissance man, Renaissance person, Renaissance individual, that's where true innovation really grows. If you're living in an island, being a specialist is not bad, but if you are truly only a specialist and only know how to do one thing, you're stinting your growth.
Well, I think what you're saying about general studies, it does have application. It's essentially general studies is just learning how to learn, and going back to that concept. Now, like what you were saying about Da Vinci and his is it Da Vinci or Michelangelo? But I believe it's Da Vinci. He talks about the Renaissance man, right?
Yeah, no, Da Vinci was a Renaissance man.
Because he's got that notebook.
Painter, artist,
he's talking about
architect, everything.
Yeah, he wants to be this, commander of multiple domains kind of deal, and really interesting concept because, what makes a well-rounded individual? Somebody who's got their fitness figured out, their health figured out, you got business interests, got social interests, got something in the philosophy realm, whether it be music or be science, whatever it is, but they've got this well-rounded kind of perspective on life where they're able to be that commander in multiple domains. Now, the other thing here is what's that quote? The master of one is...
It's jack of all trades, master of none. It's a jack of all trades, master of none is better than still better than a master of one.
And I think people, they always leave out that last point, but it's like if you can understand multiple things, you're going to be a lot more useful in your career to your boss or your own startup or whatever it be, just because you understand how these pieces fit together, how your element of the picture, feeds in or affects all the things around you. I mean, I think 1,000 examples. But
tell me this hasn't happened to you. You're focusing on a business or you're focusing on a problem. You're spending hours thinking about it, looking at it, trying to diagnose it. Then you go do something else, work on a different business, and then all of a sudden the answers to that business are showing up in the other business.
Yeah. They've already figured out a problem in that field, and the application is almost a perfect fit for your concept. Like, an interesting one was like I was looking at building an application to do card scanning. So trading cards is a huge market, several tens of billions of dollars a year. Like Pokemon alone is $40 billion a year for comparison here. It's like trading cards, like the big bottleneck here is being able to identify the type of card to send in for grading to be able to determine its value. And they've already come up with solutions here. It's like there's card scanners that they've made that are really just receipt scanners from accounting. They've already figured out the problem of how do you prevent jams, how do you not damage the medium that's being scanned. Like they've already found the solution, but it's not necessarily in the industry that or the application you were thinking of, but it exists. I think that's where it gets so interesting. It's like,
I know there's an example out there of, I don't know, it'd be 2 a.m. once again. 2 a.m. I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, that's what it is.
Cold sweats.
But no, I mean, that's why high impact individuals have such well-rounded lives. I mean, that's why millionaires are always doing weird things like going to yoga or running marathons or doing Ironmans or, doing this weird stuff that's not, because when I was growing up, I pictured in my head these workhorses who are just working 400 hours in the office. And I'm like, that's the ones who's making money. Those are the guys cranking them dollar bills. But I'm like, no, it's these people who are they probably spend 20 hours in the office, maybe 20 hours a week in the office. But those 20 hours are so primed with all of this well-roundedness that it's just 20 drips of ichor, just God's blood, just flowing through their veins.
Well, I guess you're bringing up this point. It's like, why are they the boss? It's because they've spent a couple different reasons.
Whoa, unions are listening to this. Let's wait, hold on.
Well, a boss is qualified because of capital, the risk, or the knowledge. That's what they're rewarded for. Like they've got to have those three elements in order to start a company. And at the end of the day, it's like the buck kind of stops with them. So that's what it means to be a boss, to be a business owner. And if you're wanting to position yourself in a way where you're ready for those opportunities as they come, it's like, are you taking the time to put aside money and have savings? Are you getting exposed to new experiences so that you're ready to take on the risk? You understand the risk profile. You understand what you need to learn to mitigate risk and to deal with those consequences. And then third, are you reading? It's such a simple thing. And some people might say, well, if I'm dyslexic, I can't read. Well, Richard Branson is dyslexic and he owns 500 companies and he's learned ways to cope and deal with those issues. I mean, there's podcasts, there's audiobooks, there's other video mediums where you can learn these concepts. But are you taking time in every day to be exposed to new ideas, incorporating those into your memory banks here where you're able to draw on them? If you're not, then you're going to be falling behind those individuals who are putting in that work. And it's not even a major commitment. If you're spending take one of the 7 hours you spent on social media yesterday and you just spend a little bit of focused effort.
I need all 7 of those hours. I need them all.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
But I mean, it's like most people don't read a book after they leave high school. And what a scary thought. It's like you never sat down intentionally and spent a little bit of time to,
Now, I can't remember the last time I held a paper book, but... And that's the other thing. I mean, I will say most CEOs are actually quite intelligent. Now, they're not so superhumanly intelligent that their ways are so mysterious and beyond our comprehension. But I mean, just like how a surgeon knows how to cut the arteries out of a heart and put it in somebody else, these guys just know the information and the ways to just make this stuff happen. Like Richard Branson. I mean, he's put the pieces together and he knows what he's doing. But he has put in the time, and he's put in this well-rounded effort, and he knows what he's doing. And I'm like, golly, I don't know.
Well, what's interesting is like, yeah, he had those 3 elements to start being the boss. To find his first
daddy
company.
probably gave him a loan of $1 million, but that's fine. That's fine. Well, you don't need that.
It's not everyone's story, but Branson, an interesting one is the founding of UPS. UPS founders started the business with $100 and a bike. That was the example, and the $100 startup. They talk about that. But the other thing here is like Branson's job has shifted so dramatically. Like originally he was responsible for the entire entity. Now he's responsible for the management team that runs all the Virgin companies. All those Virgin companies are one holding entity. So they share the same management structure, and they share the same kind of like the way that Richard Branson structured it. It's kind of interesting. He has a morning meeting with an assistant who deals with 85% of the inbound calls, inbound emails, and then Branson only has to deal with a limited quantity of items where they're not able to deal with it. And that's a big change. It's like kind of able to clone yourself and, have a multiplying effect on your time where,
I Google searched something really fast. If you're interested in learning about the life of Richard Branson, his autobiography is called Losing My Virginity. So that's if you
once we get
care to
Amazon
learn more.
affiliate links, that's what we need, so we can call out these books. But
And then the follow-up book, Losing and Finding My Virginity by Richard Branson. So
yeah, but he talks about his struggles in school and his growing up in a poor household and how he started his first companies and made the connections to be able to kind of scale up and all the risks he took.
I think Richard Branson's a good one to study. I mean, you talk about the morality of billionaires. There's a saying that no billionaire has morals, or there's no ethical billionaires. I don't know Richard Branson that well, but I want to say he could be.
With inflation, though, billion's not what he used to be. So, I mean, I think we're going to get to a point where
ethics goes out the window at 1.7 billion. If you're under that, you're fine.
Inflation adjusted, 1.7 is the threshold. But
you're cool. After that, you're a supervillain. That's why Jeff Bezos is bald. But
it's the leather jacket.
It's the cowboy hat and the spaceship that did it for me.